Is it time for recess yet? I'm so glad you found time to join us here on the Childcare Director's Chair, where Erica Saccoccio shares her best practices that she's refined through her passion of directing childcare centers over the last 23 years. From parenting interaction, systems to save you time, money, and stress, to profitability. She shares it all from the Childcare Director's Chair.
What if every conversation, every moment of guidance, and every gesture could unlock a child's potential? In early childhood education, the power of interaction goes far beyond simple exchanges. It shapes how children learn and grow and connect with the world. So join us today as we uncover how intentional, meaningful interactions can transform young minds and learn how educators and directors can work together to harness this powerful tool for success. If you didn't get a chance to listen to Tuesday's episode, you really should check that one out before you listen today. For those of you who are new, I'd like to say welcome to the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. I'm your host, Erica Saccoccio, and we meet here every day, Monday through Friday, as early as 5 a.m. So no matter how you found us, we're happy you are here. So let's dive into it. First thing that you really want to do is you want to lead by example. And I'm going to give you some actionable tips today that you can really take into the classrooms and help your staff with interactions that are positive, nurturing, and help children grow. So let's start with number one. You're going to lead by example. You want to model positive interactions. Engage with children using calm, warm tones and body language that encourages trust. Smile, crouch down to a child's eye level, and use gestures that communicate empathy. In every interaction, use language that promotes connection, such as I see you're feeling upset, or how can I help, rather than simply telling them what to do. And also you want to be mindful of how you handle conflicts or moments of tension with the children. Demonstrate patience and problem solving in real time so your team can see how to approach challenges. And you want to do this with consistency. Be consistent in your actions. It shows staff what a stable, nurturing environment looks like. And treat every child with the same respect and attentiveness. Demonstrate a predictable routine that helps children feel secure and model how this predictability can aid in building trust and connection. And you want to use real-life scenarios. Share examples from your own experience that show the positive impact of interacting with children. For instance, explain a time when your gentle approach helped calm a child, or when you used specific language to encourage a child's independence. Invite your team to share their experiences too, and offer feedback based on the situations that are discussed. So those would be the first tip would be, lead by example. Show them the way, give them opportunities to reflect on it. The second thing I would say is provide professional development. And some action steps that you can take is 1, invest in training for your team. Provide funding or access to professional development opportunities. And consider workshops on child development, emotional intelligence, and effective communication techniques. And regularly update your professional development calendar with relevant topics that relate directly to fostering positive interactions, such as trauma-informed practices or attachment theory. Now, one of the things I think is in our state and in many states, we have an individual professional development plan. You can change those at any time. You can review them at any time. So if you see a teacher is really struggling in this area, it might be something you want to add to their professional development plan so that they make sure that they take training in this area. The other thing that you can do is you can pair them up with somebody at your center who is really great at communication and interactions and helping guide children rather than answering all the questions for them, but guiding them. Another thing you can do is invite experts. Bring in experts. I will tell you at our early childhood conference, we have 16 amazing speakers that will be here in Warwick, Rhode Island on May 2nd through the 4th. One person that in particular that I think really would help connect this is Laura Shea, who focuses on play-based literacy and storytelling. I think that's just a great, fun way to have expansive interactions and communications with children. So, you could do something that's local in your area, see what they have available to you. But, host engaging workshops and don't be afraid to collaborate with other centers close by. Maybe you collaborate and you fund the training together and maybe you split the cost. That's a great way to do it. Many states offer free trainings. There are a lot online. I really just always love people, so I love interacting and having folks come out to our center or go into other centers. But these experts can really offer evidence-based strategies that teachers can use in their everyday practice. Coordinate follow-up sessions. Hey, it's Erica here, and I've got something super exciting to share with you. If you're in the world of early childhood education, you cannot miss the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference. And I'm not just saying that. Trust me, this is where the magic happens. Over the course of 3 days, we're all about learning, connecting, and reigniting that spark that brought you into the field in the first place. And let me tell you, this conference is packed with goodness. Day 1 is all about leadership. We've got 5 incredible presenters who will walk you through the business side of running your program. Plus, it's more intimate, a retreat-style day with only 80 administrators, so you'll get tons of face time and an opportunity to connect. And to close out the day, a fun, hilarious comedy show and dinner with Jay Yoder from the Board Teacher Comedy Tour. He graces the stages all over the country. Day 2 is a day full-blown conference with 50 vendors, 14 amazing speakers, plus 2, not 1, but 2 keynote addresses that will leave your head full of fresh ideas. Oh, and did I mention, you can also get a free professional headshot. You can even hop on an ECE podcast and share your expertise with the world. So much fun packed into one day. And then day 3, you get to relax. We're heading over to Urban Sweat, where you can treat yourself however you want. Whether you want to unwind in a Himalayan salt cave, you want to get into a yoga class, or just enjoy a relaxing massage, you will leave totally recharged. You can book your services directly with Rafa and pick exactly what you need. So are you in? Don't miss out 3 days of empowerment, inspiration, and just pure connection with your ECE community. I can't wait to see you there, so let's do this. Links below. See you soon. Where educators can ask questions and clarify doubts after the expert has led the training. And it's so funny, I went this weekend actually to a half-day virtual conference that was held here in my state, and they were reviewing the whole leadership framework. And, one of the things we were talking about follow-up, and a lot of directors don't do their own follow-up, never mind following up with staff. So, sometimes people will say, look, training is a waste of money, or they go to trainings, but they never implement it, because they're only going to implement what you follow up on. They're only going to talk about, as they say, what gets measured is what people pay attention to. So make sure that you're measuring it. After workshop, ask them what they learned, how they're going to implement it, and then follow up and visit their classrooms. Ask them, do you want to show me what you learned? You want to tell me what you learned? Be engaged in their learning. The more excited that you are about what they've learned, the more excited they're going to be, right? So just think about that, because I do hear sometimes folks say they go to trainings, but, they don't really implement anything or nothing changes. So sometimes you have to kind of self-reflect and make sure that you're following up too. And that just goes to, encouraging that continuous learning. Encourage your team members to pursue certifications. Maybe it's a CDA. Maybe it's an associate's degree. Attend those conferences. Take the online courses and focus on early childhood education, particularly around communication and engagement with children. And also develop a system to share insights and key takeaways from the professional experiences with the team so everyone can benefit. So maybe you, as the director, went to a really amazing workshop, and now you have these handouts, and now you come back, you talk to your team about what you learned, maybe 1 or 2 things, right? Because we sometimes can get carried away and tell them, 20 things that we want to change all at once. Maybe just one or two tips that everybody's going to intentionally implement over the next 2 weeks. And then maybe those 2 weeks go by and then maybe another one or two, right? So you're really building up their toolbox. So I think that that's important. So that's number 2 is the professional development. My number 3 tip is encourage reflective practices. Set aside time, 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't take long during a staff meeting or at the end of a day for educators to reflect on their interactions. Ask them to know what went well, what could be improved, and encourage them to consider how their body of language and tone affected a child's response. For example, after a day in the classroom, ask, how did you respond to a child who was frustrated today? How did that help resolve the situation? And a lot of times this is when they'll come to you and talk about that student that they might still be struggling with. Or maybe they can tell you the success that they had with a student where they maybe asked them to do something or share a toy or something that they thought maybe they were going to get some pushback on and they didn't, to their surprise. Also using guided prompts. Provide prompts that help educators focus on specific aspects of their interaction, such as, was there a moment today when you connected with a child? What did it look like? Or were there any situations where you felt you could have responded more effectively? Now, I know we all have these. We're human beings. We all have times where we reflect and go, gee, I wish I had rephrased that. Or I wish I had done this instead of that. Or that didn't quite work the way that I hoped it would. Tomorrow I'm going to try something different. But this reflection helps educators develop self-awareness and can reveal patterns in their communication style that can be improved. Because sometimes, we might tell folks, you're struggling here. But until they see it, they're not going to make that correction and they're not going to invest their time in that. Another thing you can do is you can recommend that they have a reflection journal. Encourage your team to maintain journals that reflect on their daily or weekly practices. And they can write about specific instances for positive interactions, what they learned, and how they can enhance their communication moving forward. After a month of journaling, schedule a one-on-one session and discuss their progress and insights. This is something I do as a coach with my clients. I shouldn't even call them clients, but my educators. This is something I do with a lot of the directors. I tell them the journal to reflect and then, come back and let's talk about it. So that's tip number 3. For number 4, I would like to talk about highlighting the impact of a positive language. So here are some action steps that you can take. You could organize training sessions and host a workshop specifically focused on the importance of language. Bring in a language specialist or a child psychologist to discuss the power of positive reinforcement and how words shape children's emotional and social development. Educators should learn how language affects children's self-esteem, behavior, and overall well-being, particularly in how it fosters a sense of security and autonomy, right? All children want a sense of autonomy as they get a little bit older, right? That's where those power struggles come in. Let children be able to make decisions in the classroom and communicate what they need and what they want. Now, to help foster this communication, you might need to provide language tools. Provide practical resources such as positive language scripts for teachers to use. These can include phrases like, I like the way you're using your inside voice, or thank you for sharing with your friend. Or offer alternatives for punitive or discouraging language, such as replacing don't do that with let's try doing it this way, to guide children towards positive behavior. Don't use the words don't and can't. Really, really reserve those for emergencies because they really lose their effectiveness. And children want to please us and they want to do well and they want to make the adults around them happy. To be honest, I know some days it doesn't feel like that, but it is true. And so by even just acknowledging their attempts at tasks, I see you somewhat jogging. Thank you for not running. Could you please slow it down? Right? Something like that, but using language that is positive. You could even create a language guide, develop a laminated cheat sheet or posters that include examples for affirming and guiding language with educators they can refer to throughout the day. These can be displayed in staff rooms or classrooms as a quick reminder. And it really will help your team, especially the new folks, who are under 2 years in the field to really get a concept of using their language and how they use it. Tip number 5 is promote team collaboration. Facilitate collaborative planning. Schedule regular planning meetings where educators can collaborate on lesson plans, activities, and strategies for fostering positive interactions. These meetings should be structured so that educators can brainstorm ways to integrate positive language, play, and responsiveness in every activity. I feel like books really lend themselves to those types of activities and encourage co-teaching and team-based lesson execution, where teachers pair up and share responsibilities for delivering learning experiences. The other thing I think works really well is when your team kind of comes together and brainstorms as a team. So create a safe space where teachers feel comfortable in sharing challenges and solutions. You really should honestly put this as part of your staff meetings. Maybe you guys have a 15-minute brainstorming session every month on a particular topic. Because I feel like when a teacher struggles to manage a child's behavior or communication, the team can brainstorm as a group and offer insights or different strategies for positive interactions. Especially if you have a team that's worked together for quite a bit of time, you may have teachers in that group that have previously worked with that child and have a deep understanding of how that child regulates, is dysregulated, when they get upset, like what that really looks like. And I feel like that's a benefit. So we are very lucky to have that at our school, where the children who are in my preschool room probably have been with our infant teachers and our toddler teachers for a good majority of their life. So we have a really good understanding of that child and the family and the environment, how they respond to things. So using that collaborative learning is an opportunity for everyone to grow together and solve problems as a collective. And that is how I love to run things. Now, let's make it fun too, right? It doesn't always have to be like big, deep conversations. Sometimes they can be lighthearted as well. So provide some team building activities. Maybe organize team building exercise that help strengthen the relationships between the staff members. For example, maybe a team scavenger hunt or a collaborative art project that you can encourage staff to work together in fun and creative ways, which fosters trust and strengthens their ability to collaborate in the classroom. And that is so important, especially if you have, right now I have a classroom that's 2 new teachers going into it. And so we got to build that relationship really quick, right? And so team building activities, ideas, time together, all those things will provide opportunities for the teachers to socialize outside of work, develop that cohesiveness and team culture that then trickles into the classroom. Tip number 6, I'm going to take a little sip here of water. And while you're listening, I'm going to give you a minute to I just gave you a lot of information. I'm just going to give you a minute to reflect on that. Hopefully you have a nice beverage. Maybe you have a tea. Hopefully you do. Or some cold water. All right, let's go to tip number 6, facilitating peer observations. Again, this almost piggybacks on tip 5 because it helps people to continue the conversations. But some action steps here is you could set up observations in peers. Maybe peer teachers based on their strengths and their areas for growth. For example, peer a teacher who excels in one-on-one engagement with the teacher who needs support in this area. This creates a natural mentoring system where both teachers can learn from each other. After the observation, schedule a feedback session where peers can discuss what worked well and also suggest improvements in the way that is supportive and constructive. Now, you want to make sure that after you've done that, maybe you can establish some observation goals, or maybe even before. Let's maybe do a before and after. So before the observation, maybe set clear goals for what the observer should focus on. For example, focus how the teacher uses language during conflict resolution, or look for examples of how the teacher forces independent play, and ensure that the feedback focuses on constructive suggestions and highlight what is working well, because nobody wants a laundry list of all the things that they didn't do right. I know I don't like that, and I know that most people don't. I do like constructive criticism though, and I do love feedback. So that brings me to the last part of that section, which is foster feedback sessions. Create a feedback session that is non-judgmental and it encourages peer-to-peer learning. Use questions like, what did you notice about the child's reaction during that moment? Or what other strategies could you use in a similar situation? And I feel like these are nice because, again, the answers are going to lie within the employee. which is another technique that I love to use when I'm coaching educators. I know they have the answers. The answers are not going to come from me. You know yourself better than I know you, right? So the answers are going to come from you. It's just asking the right questions to help people find those answers, but the answers are usually within. Tip number 7 is let's celebrate successful interactions, right? We talked about how do we correct interactions that might not be great. So let's acknowledge achievements publicly. Recognize teachers during staff meetings, newsletters, even on bulletin boards, when they go above and beyond in fostering positive interactions. I love to get pictures. I think pictures are worth 1,000 words, particularly in this case. You want to acknowledge specific instances, such as how a teacher helped a child express their emotions or use the positive language effectively. Positive reinforcement for staff members helps reinforce the importance of meaningful interactions, and that comes from you. You're at the top, so you're going to set the tone, and I know I say that a lot, but it is so true. You might even want to create a recognition program, develop a Teacher of the Month program to create informal recognition and formal recognition opportunities where educators are acknowledged for consistent positive interactions with children, or for some small rewards, such as extra planning time, a special mention during a team meeting, or a certificate of appreciation to show gratitude. I know my staff love the staff shout outs on the Facebook page, the public Facebook page. They love that. And often when you do that too, parents will also come in and say, oh, congratulations on XYZ. So it's just a great way to build that recognition throughout your school. Because it's hard to be a director. I know you know that. I mean, it's hard to, especially if you have a big team. I have 42 staff, like to run around from 3 different buildings and acknowledge everything that people do is difficult. So breeding that as part of your work culture where everybody's acknowledging everybody's work, including the parents, the community, the teachers within the center as well with each other. So I guess the better way to say that is use peer recognition. Implement a peer recognition system where educators can nominate each other for positive interactions. This creates a supportive environment where staff feel appreciated by their colleagues. Because it's nice to hear it from your bosses, but once in a while, it's really nice to hear it from your coworkers too. Which brings me to tip number 8. Support individualized approaches. Some action steps could be identify individual needs. Encourage staff to observe each child and take note of their unique characteristics and their preferences. For example, Susie is shy, energetic, needs extra reassurance when trying new things. Guide educators in recognizing these needs and adjusting their approach accordingly. You also want to provide personalized guidance. Excuse me, that's our fire truck, always on cue when I am recording. Provide personalized guidance, offer coaching or mentorship sessions to help educators understand the unique needs of specific children, and then tailor their strategies to foster positive interactions. For example, a teacher may need strategies for engaging with an introvert child, or for addressing the needs of emotional children who might, get upset during difficult moments. What do they do? It's funny because people joke about this so often about how when teachers are struggling, admins will just say, build a relationship. I'm sorry, but it's true and it works. It works. Is it hard work? Sure, you have to invest like any relationship. It takes time, takes love, takes nurturing, takes empathy, takes all those things. But when you do it, it's worth celebrating, especially when you see the growth in children. So celebrate tailored approaches. Acknowledge when educators successfully use individualized strategies that positively impact children's development. Recognize teachers who take the extra step to adapt their communication style based on a child's temperament, or make modifications in the classroom. Maybe the way the room is set up. Maybe they set up picture cues. Maybe they add 3 more red trucks. If you notice the kids are, fighting about the red truck. But, acknowledge the staff that take the time to really dig deep, put in the roots, and make those interactions that matter. That takes me to tip number 9. You want to create an inclusive environment. You want to promote diversity. Include diversity-style books, toys, and posters, and materials that reflect various cultures, races, and backgrounds. You want to ensure that the classroom environment is inclusive, affirming, and welcoming for all children. I want you to make it clear that everyone belongs and that diversity is celebrated, which creates a positive environment for both the children and the staff. And you could do this by encouraging culturally responsive interactions. You want to train your teachers on culturally responsive pedagogy, encouraging them to learn about the backgrounds of the children in their care and to use that information to build strong connections. You also want to create opportunities for staff to reflect on their own biases and consider how these may affect the interactions with their children. And I think that's really important. I think it's important to really make sure that if there are some biases there, that you figure out how you're going to address them. You want to make sure that you are providing inclusive activities. Encourage the incorporation of multicultural traditions in your classroom. For example, children can participate in cooking, storytelling, or art activities that celebrate different cultural holidays or practices. Those action steps will help your team deepen their understanding of how powerful and transformative their interactions with children can be. By promoting growth and collaboration and consistent reflection, you'll foster an environment where meaningful connections thrive. And so I hope that those tips were really helpful. That was actually only 9. There was only 9. So I would say tip number 10 is to make sure that your interactions with your team are also positive. Make sure that you are implementing not only these strategies in the classrooms with the teachers and the children, but make sure that you are also reflective and doing the same. Are you culturally aware? Is your communication pleasant? What do you do when a staff member, I don't want to say use the word challenges your authority, but maybe ask questions that you feel like might be pushback, right? How do you handle that? Because again, you can't expect that they're going to have a culture of empathy, understanding if you're not. So again, it starts from the top, guys. So I hope that gives you some actionable steps that you can use right now to help your team understand the importance of the interactions that happen in your center, how you can support them so they can support children. And don't forget, I'm here to support you. So thank you for tuning in as always. And remember, it's the little details, those small details that make a big impact on the success of your childcare business. That's it for today. Have a great day.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode of the Childcare Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Childcare Director's Chair.